Okay, at long last, now that we're into week 36, I'm going to catch up on, I believe this is week 35. We should be heading into week 37. It's Monday, but paying it forward for next year and all following years, Taurus and second house, not surprisingly, since it's such a huge constellation, although I thought Virgo gave us, yeah, Virgo and Taurus. So now then we're going to head straight into like one of the smallest constellations with Capricorn. So I don't think the intensity is going to lift. I think it's going to stay. I think we're in the Scorpio energy and we're going to go through a lot of transformative energy. It's going to keep hitting. It's going to keep pushing until we get where we need to go. So that's my feeling. But I went and I'm pushing on all fronts. They're putting me through quite a huge tower moment that I've been through before, building up to this. So it's not like I was trying to avoid anything. It's just it takes what it takes. And we'll explain as we get into this week is all about catching up on house number 2 in your chart. Okay. But several things have happened, and this is like 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks to do this because we're still catching up from Virgo. But this is how it goes. This is what we learn, and so I'll be ready for next year in terms of knowing when we hit the 7th month in this process. That is the 7 of transformation. We were right. I was right about, well, who told me that? Archangel guidance. Okay, so I'll get in front of the camera in a second. I'm just up here by the camera to get us into checking where everything is. And there's Boots, so that's not far from Virgo. So here we have Mars basically right at the heart, shall we say, maybe not the center, but the heart of Libra. And over here in Scorpius, right next to, this is exciting, Galactic Nebula, IC 4604, so we'll get back to that at some point. In fact, what I'll do is take a screenshot to remind myself. But look at that lineup there. What's that doing to us? And we have over here Messier globular cluster. Okay, so what energies come at us through there? And woo, look at that light up. Messier 4 globular cluster. So gotta remember this for next time I hit house number 8. Not that we aren't right now. No, there's like way too much glare off of this to get it to focus. Okay. Well, that's exciting. Now, Venus, way past the Milky Way. Where'd she go? Pan, zoom out. Glitching. Look at this. Huge. Oh, we're right at the ass. That's nice. That's nice. Heading for H1 and H2. H1N1. Okay. And now a thing that's happened, and I'm not exactly sure. I gotta go back and see if I have screenshots. I lost track. But Jupiter's actually past the halfway point between, now the problem being always, of course, that we have this overlap, right, of Aquarius arm. I felt like last night when I was checking, I felt like it was, okay, it hasn't reached the halfway point yet, but we could say. But we're going to keep an eye out for when Jupiter actually, like I'm waiting for it to basically hit right about here, not quite at that start, right? And then I feel like, but we could say for all intents and purposes, right? Another thing is that Neptune, now there's Pisces. So you can see Pisces without them showing me the goddamn constellation. Come on. There we go. They just want me to be able to show. Okay, so Neptune is this little guy, right? Okay. And so Neptune's going from Pisces to Aquarius, and that has happened because there's the last closest star of Pisces, and here's, so the midpoint, it's past midpoint. What I'm not sure is exactly when it went past that midpoint. We got to figure out how fast this Neptune's moving. So that's one of our challenges for this coming month, is to, yeah, a little too late there, Pisces. God, no, Stellarium. But I love Stellarium. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that. And now I'll show you. I've got this book out because it is basically my go-to book for everything. It's like, there is the Bible, but we also know the history, the multiple histories of the Bible. I love my Jesus, but Jesus also got me to read Brian's Return, which is not a religious book. It's actually a book for teenagers. Well, it's a book for anybody, but the reading level is teenagers. And it's set, there's a story to go with that is tied to more of the happenings, but it carries, it's coming to me in Taurus, in second house. So when and as, I'm mentioning it now so that I remember it. Sagittarius also comes into this, especially with Venus transiting Sagittarius, but also my second house in whole house is in Sagittarius. So space pod Sagittarius figures in this as well. And I've figured out, they've led me to understand. They've handed me the Magician card at least twice, in May and in August, telling me to find a magic snake charmer. And that is absolutely answered by digging into the Nakshatras of Taurus, because we have Rohini, and Rohini is the snake, and Rohini is the central nakshatra of Taurus. And it's very important to understand Rohini, everything that there is to know, based on all the work that everybody's done for how many thousands of years to understand it. Okay, so we've got the answer to that, and this gets quite involved. Hang on. How typical. It's just, I know this is a thing. This is a Taurus thing where it just, things get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. Like interferences. I haven't even published the earth readings for almost like 4 or 5 days. I've uploaded them, but then blockages came. So what I realized, now I went in deep with this because everybody's probably got at least one empty house, and they're going to hit at different times in this experience for everybody, obviously. And I need to know how best to help, because otherwise it's going to be a speed bump for somebody where I'm not giving you enough help when you need it, if I'm just going through a house that for me has a planet in it, right? So I need to add some pages to this book about what to do for empty houses, and that's why this is going to be my favorite year ever for this experience, is the science of finding out, you know, what is versus what isn't, and then modifying. It doesn't get better than that. So what won't be fun in a few years' time is if everything is just so settled and set that it's just formulaic, right? Like I've got too many answers for you ahead of time. But I went into the nakshatras, and this took some doing, because it's not enough. You could just print, I have screenshots of other people's charts. That's how I built this one, right? But I penciled in, and I wanted to understand. And there's one website in particular, Vidya Mitra, that I found their information. I've used them, I've referenced them before, and some of their information's missing, but there's so much information on their site, it's not surprising, just like how I've screwed up in this book with typos, or you know, how they would screw up some of the formatting or some of the content on theirs. All said and done, it's a really good starting place, especially, well, and I go deep dives because I get psychically led, and you get psychically led in your research, yes? But I knew that I know that there's more to know about the influences on us than the Western zodiac gives us, right? And we've gone into, when we went into Taurus constellation, and the Pleiades, and the Hyades, and Ceres, and Aldebaran, and Agni. I mean, they have other names, they have other stories and other astrologies in other parts of the world. So you get as much information as you can thanks to internet and books, right? A lot of out-of-print books, though, are very helpful, but definitely for other cultures, getting their stories up and out, the internet's been awesome for that, yeah? Some justice, some very little justice compared to all the injustice. But yeah, so I go digging into what can I find out about, since I have planets aspecting, but what are the problems? And I do believe that Eastern, now Vedic is an umbrella term as well, right? So a lot of India is an umbrella name. It's not even the name, right? Bharat is one name, but there's so many groups, yes, geographically over there, and they all have their own parts, and especially like, and I'm not, Tamil, we know that Tamil people do not, well, the people, groups of people, you're an individual, I'm an individual. It's hard enough, even if we are from a group, to even fit in with the group, right? What are groups? They're approximations, right? So, we're working our way towards being accurate and specific and honoring the truth of what comes from where and who figured out what, okay? And put credit where credit's due. But I started aspecting, right? I was like, how do my empty houses interact with each other? Of course, I'm answering all of this and all of this. So I have some different information on here versus what I come up with when I get into this, okay? But let me just show you how I map this out, right? So I go up to where my second house is, and I start with whole house, yes, okay? And then also, so here's whole house in Sagittarius, and here's my Ibn Ezra Regiomontanus uneven house, second house in the white, right? Okay, and it's running through Sag, Capricorn, and Aquarius, right? Or I think it starts in Capricorn, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Okay. Okay, and so let's just start normally I'd pull the deck out, right? And instead this time I did it as a print because I photographed the cards like last year. So primarily because I feel like what I'm starting to think, two concepts for you, that the whole house system is your underlying, it's sort of like your rising sign. It's your underlying vibe, flow, yes, to that house is in the whole. This is why two systems, because that is your baseline. Then the uneven house system, whichever one you want to use, I do like Ezra Ibn Ezra's. Regiomontanus never called it the Regiomontanus. It was named for him after the fact. He referenced it as the Ibn Ezra or Aben Ezra. And Aben Ezra was the most accurate translator of Arabic astrology information, which now I got to figure out how much it was, right? Okay. So that's why I chose to go with that system. I have a feeling, though, that we kind of need to work things against each other. Like, I feel like it progresses, yes? And the inclination is to progress through Capricorn to Aquarius. But I kind of, once I've got it charted out and what happens in your life, I'm feeling like it's almost like I'm moving back through. Okay, and then I have this other interesting problem of where my second house whole ends and my second house uneven starts, and I have this gap between them, very small gap, and so I look into what that means. Does it mean it? Why wouldn't it mean something? It's all math. it's all trigonometry. So of course it's all numerology. So of course it matters if there's a slight gap. So I've highlighted that on other pages. But what I do is so primarily most of the real estate I'm going to give to, well, a lot of it I'm going to give to Sagittarius. And so then I thought, well, okay, so let's consider this constellation visually. What can we pick up visually? Like, because the clues like help me get connect the dots literally in my mind, right? Of what the second house is trying to tell me, or what my guides are trying to tell me about my second house. Okay, so I know that primarily the energy of it is tied to the Temperance card and the wheel, so Jupiter, right? And this is the card of Sagittarius. So everything that these cards mean. Now, my Jupiter is down in Gemini, so I brought up, right? So I'm answering these questions this way as best I can. I don't get into what houses Gemini in, because that's too much visual information. I've got it listed here, obviously, and then what that means, what I can take from that. But for me, because Sagittarius is 9th house and it's mutable, I put it as King and Queen energy. My 9th house is primarily whole house. It's in Cancer, so I'm just sticking with whole house energy, like so that I don't completely confuse myself. And maybe one day I'll get to the point where I put the uneven house as well, but it carries through all of this energy anyway. It's over in Virgo or Leo somewhere. Okay, I think it's in Virgo. But so I've got these visual cues. Okay, so this is something just to meditate, but these are the cards of second house for me, because it's, for me, cardinal, yes. This is why I moved Taurus to cardinal energy, because I'm finding that Taurus, things that have been happening during this time, this month, groundbreaking, excavating, and like we had the BC floods, okay, which are completely controlled. And I found out from the comment section under one video that from a guy that worked with the infrastructure, yeah, a big part of how they engineer catastrophes is through neglect, right? Like willful neglect of the bridges, the roads, right? They know what they can make use of, because of course it's all controlling market, it's all controlling trade. So because it's going to affect the whole continent to have BC down for trade routes from the flooding, okay? But but there's also a way to use that information to inform ourselves about what the Great White Brotherhood does, and how it's all tied to this, okay? So Taurus for me, cardinal, because yes, the groundbreaking, break the ground, the bull, and the year the bull comes in and it's huge and it just like tears up the ground, okay? And then we've got the storm of Gemini coming after that. Isn't that awesome? And then we reach home, okay? But so the Ace through the 4 of Pentacles. Now, in that, so I prioritize Sagittarius cards, 8, 9, 10 of Wands, okay? This energy, whole house. In the uneven house, I've got Capricorn, 8, 9, 10 of Pentacles. And then Aquarius, 8, 9, 10 of Swords. Now, the 9 of Wands and the 8 of Swords are tied to my North Node placement, right? Okay, I've got a page for that. But, and there's a whole 8 Swords story. Oh, I forgot, I gotta print up more Jennifer Soul Source Tarot pages, because there are 2 instances of the 8 of Swords that Jennifer gave. Okay, right, forgot to do that before this, but I'll do it for next video. But this is how loaded an empty house can be. And you can see that there's potentially neglect there, yes? Like, if you don't know your chart, how the hell do you know what to do with all of this, right? So, and then we have, going through Capricorn, of course, we have the World card and the Devil card. So how much is, and good or bad, right? Especially when we have Gemini, we have Jupiter over in Gemini with the Lovers. Yeah, Yeah, so sorry, camera cut out, so I listened to where I left off with Gemini, lovers in Gemini. So the information overload over here with this placement. Okay, and then we have the Chariot repeated over here because I have Capricorn in Cancer. So you start to look at correlations and go, well, okay, so if that's where my Saturn, if that's where my portal is, my world, yes, my world card, my reputation, my career, where do I have this card? Do I have this card placed with a planet? And I do, but it's placed with Uranus in another house, in the 11th, which is going to tie into how I'm coordinating the empty 11th and the empty 5th with the empty 2nd. So for me, 10th, of course, is King and Queen, Queen and King of coins, which Pentacles, which, you know, we've got to look into this. We're going to get into the Pentacle that's in right there, and the history of the Pentacle. But this is this is, like I've been saying, the scariest magic. We look at this energy, we look at Earth energy as being so practical, right? Yes, practical is 50% of it, but for what reason? To manifest the spiritual into the physical, right? So the scariest, this is like uber witch and wizard energy, like I've said before. So I have that in Leo, and there's a lot of energy to Leo. Yes, we get into the creative energy. The Nakshatras break it down that much more, right? They get us so much more specific. There's a lot of just stately energy in Leo. There's a lot of lordship energy. More, and then it starts to go into the creative. But we need to focus more, I think, on what it means to do, how to be lord of anything. And I don't mean that in a usurping God's power way at all, you know, obviously. So then, and then we've got, now what I don't know about my 2nd house, I can't know yet because we haven't got there yet. I only know about Aquarius for sure, right? Because we haven't got in, we're just about to go into this constellation in this house, and then we don't get here until the end. So I've got to do my best. There are things I can't know about this house yet. I've tried. I've done a lot, okay? But what do I know about Aquarius house? Well, if we go back to that Aquila and Ganymede situation and stolen children, okay? So then, yes, I come back to that idea. I'm here, mine's in Virgo, but my Uranus, yeah, my Uranus is in Libra, okay? My Uranus is in Libra, and what was I saying about... We need to connect Uranus and Saturn with Cancer and Libra, the Chariot and the Justice, because the planet, because this is connected to my 10 of Pentacles. This is the placement I have for 10 of Pentacles, okay? So if I want to, I could start drawing lines there. But this is what 2nd house, my 2nd house looks like. This is everything I got to solve. Where am I, you know, what am I, and my version of that is that when I was young, right, this is what I was up against. A revelation that has also come through to me in this time is that Aquarius and Pisces, we've got this completion energy with Capricorn. Aquarius and Pisces, it took me going back to connecting 2nd house and what you have and what you don't have, starting at the beginning of your life and how you're going to progress and what you're fated for or not, right? And how much you can push back against that the more you know. But the stolen child theme, and the sexual abuse theme of Aquarius, Ganymede, Aquila, Zeus taking form as Aquila and coming down and taking the young boy, Ganymede, because he's so beautiful, taking him up and turning him into you know, basically trafficking him into a sex slave. And sex, if it's abuse, it's not sex, right? And then Ganymede being so overcome because his dad did the deal on him, right? His dad trafficked him to Zeus in exchange for horses. Now, some stories say the dad was very upset and was not consenting. Others say he was. What did the dad do to try to get Ganymede back might be the question. And how much... See, it's one of those stories where I feel like they're hiding it in plain sight, right? Like, not every... Most of that mythology is stolen from everybody else's, right? But that's fairly unique. Same with Aragon over in Virgo. And there's a connection between them. But so I know about this energy. What can I do to bring that into this? I think my thoughts broken off for a moment, and that's okay because we can't get it all done in this video. But start with what you know. Right. This stolen child theme. And even when I was young, Lorena McKennitt is a singer from my area, and my mom had even performed with her once or twice, and one of my piano teachers had busked with her regularly. But when I was young, Lorena put out the album Elemental, and I went through many years of loving Lorena McKennitt. A lot of Celtic music. And she did Yeats' Stolen Child. And so that comes through. As soon as I was like, yep, hey Yeats. You know what? Jeez. And I have him right nearby me. Here he is. So there's his poem, Stolen Child. Whether it was traditional and he modified it, I can't remember. But Yeats, who was colleagues, did some work with Pamela Coleman Smith of our Smith-Waite Tarot. Hey, you guys. And Yeats absolutely helped me get a home for my last partner out in This guy helped me big time. So here he is again. Here he is again. Thank you. And Pamela. Okay. Sorry, Pamela, that I use Morgan Greer's. There's a reason for it. I'm not sure what yet. Except that I photographed them. Because I photographed them before I ever went and got you. That's right. Okay. So take that as an affirmation that about what I'm about to say. Aquarius and Pisces. They're unique two houses that are in the system but are not in the system. Paradoxical. I'm going to say they're two houses of childhood innocence. Everything that I learned while we were in Aquarius house was that it's tied to what made you happy, like your core self, your happiness, which takes you right back to the beginning of your incarnation. Yes, probably before that, but so Pisces and Aquarius, therefore, there's an energy to them of absolute innocence, and of course that can be derailed, except that it can't. So when anybody talks about original sin and being born with original sin, I'd say here's the truth about how false that is. You've got such a purity in Aquarius and Pisces energy. It's the infinite child and the victim. The victim of the system. Like all of us, our inner victim, our inner child, our inner victim. And that is Aquarius and Pisces. And once we hit Aries, Aries incarnates, right? Capricorn completes, Aries incarnates. Yeah, and I just hit my pencil mark. But that's where I get working on this at this level, okay? Now, to carry on, what I did to make it... Now, why did I... I didn't actually... Oh, I've lost the page. I swept it away. Did I sweep it away with the other one? Oh, because I printed it on the back of it. That's right, double-sided printing. Okay. So, because I'm going to just drive you nuts here. I had done it all in pencil with the Nakshatras, right? But I was like, okay, that's too hard. I need to break things down. It's good. I've got an overview here. And yes, we're going to get back into this part of it, right? The planets in your house and all that. But I did a special drawing, and I'll include this, right, for future versions of the book, a whole chart, right, and where you can check, this is how nakshatras work, okay, so they divided, the math of this is much better, since these need to be modified to be uneven, because the sun doesn't transit through them, they're not the same size constellations, right, but if you divide the sky into, equal degrees, yes, 27 nakshatras, lunar houses is what nakshatras are. So 27 of them, because 27, they could divide the 360 equally, yes? And then within each nakshatra are 4 phases, yes, 4 padas, that have different characteristics to them. So you can see how specific this gets about personality traits, right? So then what I did, I won't go through all of it, okay? But in my whole house, yes, so it transits through, my whole house covers these nakshatra. Mula, Purva Ashada, and Uttara Ashada, okay? So this is where I ended up with vidyamitra.com. And just to get started for a feel of what the energies are, what the personality types, and what I'm going through as a have or have not person. What do I have? What don't I have? Okay. And what can this tell me about why and what I should be focusing on, right? So just more and more information. If it's feeling like there's, you know, if you don't know, then you go and you find out. Okay. So then I did the same. I love how quickly I can get through so much work. It took hours and days. No, next. I did the same then. I wasn't necessarily sure that I should, but I did. I took another day and I did the other second house, because of course if you're gonna finish what you start, right? Now this is where I feel like the progression actually moves back this way. But I also have my moon in one of these nakshatra, and it's telling me a heck of a lot about, yeah, it's giving me a lot of answers, okay? So I'll spare you the specifics. If they work their way into a story at some point, fine. But it has everything to do with publishing and detail work and religions or spirituality, and that's sounding a little vague and like it could apply to anybody, but there are specifics in here that are enough that I was like, okay, let's keep that. Let's keep that. And I'm not looking for confirmation bias. I look for the negatives as well, because, and I've included them, because then I know what I'm up against. I know how I'm going to be pushed and triggered. Yeah. Then there's this thing. Here's this gap. I edited this in, right? And what's really interesting, so it's halfway through. This gap hits between this little tiny gap between my second houses. Yes. Where this whole house ends and the uneven starts, okay? So that's in Uttara, isn't it? Uttara Ashada, right? And here I went in and I created an enlargement of that. So this is the gap that you can see probably. I'd hold it up to the camera, but that's just going to drive us nuts anyway. And I'll explain this in a second. But there's this overlap. Now, maybe I will hold this up to the camera. Whoop. Okay. So, this is where it pays to get specific. You can see how these don't quite line up, right? Now, on this side, but you see how this, it just kind of falls in there, yeah? because there, I need to focus down more, right? It's lining up pretty much with where this second house starts. Okay, so this is the gap between that line and that line. Okay, now on this side of it, we have the third pada. Yes, this is the third pada. And on this side of it, of course, we have the second pada. Now, here's the difference between third and second. A person with intelligence to achieve goals and ambitions, working smart and efficiently, being a leader for others, working towards goals with others, teaming up to get things done, using communication to rally others towards ambitions. Okay, so focus on everybody else. Yes, how do I get other people and help them and get a collective thing done, versus person who's ambitious, focused, determined on achievement and gaining recognition, strong resolve, nothing phases the will, hard exterior, nerves of steel, tough, working hard for personal gains, realizing own ambitions, may go to great lengths to achieve objectives. Okay, so that is self-oriented, other-oriented. I mean, there is, if you're doing it the right way, it's other-oriented, yes? But then, if I've had years of helping other people with their stuff, and I'm still burning myself to figure out how to help other people figure their stuff, what about my stuff? And how do I win people if I've neglected ambitions, if I've neglected putting the focus there? People can smell that I'm needy. It starts to smell like you're needy. It starts to smell like everything you do over here is oriented towards, well, I need the group in order, you know, it starts to become a negative if this gets neglected. And this is the leap. This is that gap. Like, how pivotal is it to know that? This isn't an emotional block. This isn't trauma. I mean, they all helped with it, yes, but it's astrological. And the work that people have done to figure this stuff out, to chart it, to note it in people, and to keep records, enough records that it becomes a thing. What did I make a note of? Yeah. At the cost of delaying my own ambitions, right? So I was right to work these backwards, probably not backwards either if we look at the Earth's movement and the transits, right? But it had popped into my head, thank you guides, to look at it going this way rather than this way, because when I had read these to get the screenshots, I was thinking this way. I was like, yeah, stop focusing on you, don't worry about you, worry about them. Okay, but hang on. And then I started, so everything I did, right? I've progressed everything back through this, and I've started, see, here's my moon, okay? Now, it's not in my second house, but it shares a nakshatra with my second house, right? It's in the third pada, and my second house goes through the first pada, and that is Purva Bhadrapada. Okay, now how much to know? I'll get specific now, just because we're here. Born in the third pada. So much is sort of like, okay. Undertake all jobs, but scientific minded, interested in how things work. Now you'll see that in several nakshatras. Master researcher, always learning, lifelong student, well educated. Sharing ideas, but publishing ideas, opinions, philosopher by nature, teaching philosophies, broadening other visions. That is not so recurring in so many other nakshatra. You look for what stands out as like, okay, that's different. Okay, communicating spiritual ideas, and again, it's down to the care. Sorry about the radiator. Being a guru, getting others to understand greater ideas than themselves, communicating ideas of humanitarian interest, talking about ideas of advancing society, helping bring humanity to greater heights through ideas. Okay, so especially when we get to something specific like publishing, okay, then I'm like, all right, there we go. Now, there are many other specifics in here with the others, okay? But obviously, this isn't just about me. It's about you. So the point being, if you do this level of detail work, research, you're not going... Yes, it's the only way to find what you're looking for. The details are buried. And not that that's shocking. Not that you really need to be told that, yeah? But again, if I didn't push myself... Now, it wasn't even just enough to get the screenshots. You have to push yourself to lay it out. You have to push yourself to edit it on a page, push it around, see how things interact. It's the puzzle. You have to build the puzzle. You have to do the physical, visual work. Okay? Yes, your mind will do some of it non-visually, absolutely. But it wasn't just enough. What I'm saying, it wasn't enough to collect. Had to apply, right? So yes, I could just keep the screenshots in my phone. I could hold the phone up to the camera and, you know, scroll through them. But it wouldn't have got me where I needed to get with understanding. And understanding at a critical time so that I know exactly where I am needing to flip the thinking, right? Because of this placement. So this all came back, what came back to me, and I'll get a photo of the actual one that my dad got me. But the year that my mom died, the first Christmas without her, I was 13 and Dad wanted to do something, you know, exquisite. They always bought me things. Every time she was in hospital, she was dying for most of my childhood, but she was also an opera singer. So we'd have a chemo year and then we'd have a, you know, touring professional concert year. But she'd go into hospital, they'd buy me a toy. So I associate all toys basically with bad news and death. Scorpio. He got me this dollhouse kit that Christmas, okay? From my favorite place, my happy place. So Second House takes me back. Again, thanks to the Aquarius in there. This is further to my point about childhood. Yes. Pisces and Aquarius. This is where they have this fabulous dollhouse section. Virginia's in charge of it. Or she was. She might have retired or passed by now. But I also got sales ideas from her because, like, customer care ideas. She kept a notebook of people that had questions, right? And she took their name down and their question down, and then she looked after people. So I did that when I was in customer service over at the fabric store for years and years. And it's amazing what a difference that makes. And I ended up with 100 people in my phone, right? I love it. Not that I can keep up with it at all. You can't. It's time and place sensitive. But anyway, got this house. It still looks like it's not painted. We got this far. We got the stairs in, but we needed to put the electrical in and stuff like that. There were things that needed doing. The windows needed to be put in. It was too much. It was too much. Okay, and see, and it can all be filled. And I ended up giving it back to my dad, like handing it back to him and saying, like, this is years later, saying this, you know what, I can't, it's too much. I need to get it out of my head. I need to stop worrying about it. I need to stop thinking about it. It's something that I can't, you know, and I was a grown-ass woman by the time I handed it back to him. So age 13 to however long, I'm not entirely sure when I gave up on it. But if this isn't absolutely a physical manifestation and iteration of my second house being empty and how big it is, yes? So life hands you these affirmations. This is second house. This is second house. It's empty, right? And you just get, those are the affirmations you're looking for, right? And what did this do to me? What does it teach me? What do I need to resolve, right? and with dad and my mom's death and compensation and associations and stuff like that. But the fact that there is an astrology that plays into your life, and it's not psychology, it's not, well, they're all astrologers anyway, but you know, doesn't start with behavioral, you know, we got to go back and diagnose through the astrology. So this is just the website of the company that makes it. I wanted to give them credit. Greenleaf, right? And this is my store, Toad Hall. So that's where I get with that. Okay. Again, though, if I didn't do all that work, there's still a couple more things to go. Try and keep things in order if I need to reference them again, so I don't totally drive you nuts. But if I skip ahead to this page for a moment, okay, these are the cards for your second house. The Hierophant, for me, the Page of Pentacles, because I put second house as cardinal, right? So Page energy. Others would put you as Knight energy, fixed, okay? But for me, Page. And of course, Venus, the Empress, okay? So I've got Venus symbol over here. Now, Hierophant, I also use as a symbol for Chiron, your Chiron placement, because he's the teacher, okay? This is a teacher. So for me, as much as this is a card of marriages and contracts and, well, it is a student teacher. It's an initiate, you know, spirit. For me, of course, with my Christian background, we have no advocate, but, you know, but God, you know.